Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to decode one of the most powerful and most challenged ideas in the world, democracy. It's a system that, for many of us, feels like the default. But right now, it is under some serious stress.
You've probably heard these words a million times, right? They sound great. They get to the heart of this idea that the government's power should come from us, the people. But what does that actually look like in the real world? And where did this whole idea come from in the first place?
All right, to really get what democracy is today, we've got to rewind the clock. We need to go back to its roots, which, believe it or not, are pretty ancient.
So, the name itself is kind of like a mission statement. Demos, people. Kratos, rule. Rule by the people. It's all right there. And you know, this was a radical idea. It's the total opposite of a monarchy, which is ruled by one king or queen, or an aristocracy, which is ruled by some small, wealthy elite. The whole point here is that power belongs to everyone.
But look, this idea didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's been a long, slow burn over thousands of years. It kicked off in ancient Athens, though. Let's be real, their version only included male citizens. Then, for a long time, the idea kind of went quiet, until big moments like the Magna Carta in England, which basically said, hey, even the king has to follow the rules. Then the Enlightenment came along and just supercharged everything, leading to massive revolutions. And finally, in the last couple of centuries, incredible movements fought to expand who the people actually included.
Okay, so that's the history. But how do you take this ancient concept and turn it into like an operating system for a whole country? Well, let's pop the hood and look at the user manual, the core principles that really make a democracy work.
Now, here's the thing you absolutely have to get. These 4 principles are not a la carte. You can't just pick and choose. They're all completely linked. I mean, think about it. What good are free elections if you don't have freedom of speech? How can you have the rule of law if the courts aren't independent? And how can you hold anyone accountable if you have no idea what they're doing? You see? They're like the 4 legs of a table. Take one away and the whole thing gets wobbly.
So the first big design choice is how the people actually get to rule. You've got direct democracy, kind of like ancient Athens, where everybody votes on everything. That's just not practical when you have millions of people. So what most countries use is a representative democracy. We elect people to go make decisions for us. And hey, if we don't like what they're doing, we can vote them out next time.
And the other big choice is how you set up the government itself. In a presidential system, you've got the president on one side and a legislature like Congress on the other. They're separate. But in a parliamentary system, the powers are kind of fused together. The prime minister is actually a member of the legislature. And believe me, this choice makes a huge difference in how power is balanced and how things get done.
Okay, so that's the blueprint, how it's supposed to work. But let's get real. In practice, democracy today has some major bugs in the system. It's under more strain than it's been in a very long time.
Let me just throw a number at you. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit, what percentage of people on this planet do you think live in what you'd call a full democracy? Take a guess. It's only 8%. 8! That number is, well, it's kind of shocking, and it really shows you just how fragile this whole thing is.
And this chart really paints the picture, doesn't it? The reality is pretty stark. More than half the world's population, 55%, doesn't live in a democracy at all. And another huge chunk, 37%, lives in what they call flawed democracies. So the elections might be okay, but other things like basic rights or government function are pretty weak. So what on earth is causing all this strain?
So what's going on here? Well, it's a perfect storm of challenges, and each one of them is like a direct attack on those core principles we just talked about. I mean, disinformation makes it almost impossible for people to make informed choices. When you have leaders attacking courts or the free press, that's a direct shot at the rule of law. And when trust in government tanks, well, the whole idea of accountability just goes out the window.
And you can actually see this strain in public opinion. It's wild. In some places, when people feel like the system isn't working, you see significant support for some pretty undemocratic alternatives. But then you look at a stable, long-running democracy like Germany, and people are overwhelmingly against those ideas. It really just goes to show how much public faith in the process can swing when things get tough.
So this all leads to the big question, right? Given all these problems, what's next? Is democracy heading for a system-wide crash, or is there some kind of upgrade on the horizon?
The data right now is not great. It shows a really worrying trend. For 6 straight years, more countries have been moving away from democracy than moving towards it. This isn't just a blip, it's a sustained negative slide. It's what experts are calling a democratic recession.
But hold on, it's not all doom and gloom. The system has a built-in defense mechanism.
All over the world, you're seeing regular citizens pushing back. These countervailing forces, things like protests, high voter turnout, independent groups speaking up, they're like the system's immune response. They're what stop power from getting too concentrated and keep the people in charge.
Which brings us to this final thought, and it's really the main thing to take away from all this. Is democracy some kind of finish line we've crossed, or is it more like a living thing, a constant process that every single generation has to fight for and defend? Because its future isn't guaranteed. It really does depend on all of us staying engaged and vigilant to make sure it not only survives, but actually thrives.